No, no, full screen, sir.
Back. Page.
हो गया ना? हाँ. सर एक बार चेक कर सर पॉइंट है.
Okay.
ఇది అవుతుంది ఆన్ ఉందా?
రెండు అనే ఉన్నాయి.
नहीं आ रहा. పాకెట్ మైక్ ఏమన్నా ఉందా? లేదు కదా. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here and welcome you all for the 73rd Pleach Talk. So today marks the 73rd Pleach Talk and we are especially very delighted that it is our first Pleach Talk at FDDI campus out of 73 and we are very grateful to Executive Director FDDI and to all the faculties of FDDI for opening your doors to heritage and dialogues, design dialogues and Pleach India Foundation. Thank you so much everyone. There is a beautiful Sanskrit shloka, more than like a verse. It says, Swagrahe pujyate grahye, Swagrame pujyate prabhu, Swarajye pujyate raja, Vidwan sarvatra pujyate. So, at home, even the common householder also respected. In a village, that village leader is respected. In king is respected in only his kingdom, whereas a knowledgeable person, he is respected anywhere he goes. So one such respected personality who is very knowledgeable is among us today. He is such a scholar whose contribution, which is not only revered nationally, even revered across the world. So many times people carry a lot of wisdom. There are so many researchers, but rarely they are very good teachers. But I'm very happy to say that along with the very strong research background, Sir Ota sir is one such person who has a gift of explaining very complex archaeological theories in a with a much clarity and with so much of simplicity that even most intricate concepts they become very fascinating and easy to understand. And in essence, even Pleach stands for that, connecting to the roots, bringing knowledge from the field of heritage to the people, and helping everyone to understand and appreciate India's rich heritage, wealth, and incredible past what we have to everyone. So, regarding sir, we are very honored to welcome Dr. S.B. Ota sir. He was the former Joint Director General of Archaeological Survey of India, ASI, and he is a Tagore National Fellow, and currently is the Secretary of the Academy of Archaeological Heritage Research and Training at Bhopal, which he started from scratch. His illustrious career spans across the research and prehistoric archaeology, rock art studies, and early cultural landscapes. He has received prestigious honors including Young Scientist Award in 1970s and the Charles Wallace India Trust Fellowship and Japan Foundation Fellowship. And Sir's work across Ladakh and Narmada Valley and other parts of India has significantly deepened our understanding of India's archaeological heritage. And today's talk lecture on early human occupation and petroglyphs of high altitude Ladakh, Himalayas in India, takes us on a takes us to Ladakh's high altitude valleys, preserving thousands of petroglyphs. So we have arranged one small displays. We will showcase what rock art is, what are petroglyphs, what are pictographs, and we have something called earth figures or geoglyphs, everything you can see. And we are showcasing some of the beautiful rock art sites from across India, from different states. So these rock engravings offers rare insights into early human presence, adaptation, and cultural evolution in some of the Earth's most extreme terrains. So with the great respect and immense happiness, I'm inviting Dr. S.B. Ota sir to deliver his talk and take us to the world of Ladakh's early human occupation. Sir, please. It has two. Both are there. One is for camera, one is for...
At the outset, I must thank Dr. Tejaswini Madam for inviting me for this. And it's my pleasure. Probably the second time I'm coming to this place. And I know your lecture has become very popular when it is already online and all that. And it will be slightly different what I will speak today. It's already winter and it's not that cold here. But I'll take you to a landscape which is presently about minus 10, 20 degrees Celsius at the moment, or more at many places. And almost 6 months in a year, they are under snow, under ice. How the people lived there and how they created these beautiful art pieces. And not in 1,000, 2,000 years back, couple of 1,000 years back. That is what we will travel to that landscape, let's see how we can enjoy that. And that's one of because I'm working there for last more than 30, 35 years. And if you tell me to go to any place in our country, it's the Ladakh. The second one is the Andamans. It's a beautiful location, completely contrast. Ladakh is one of the finest landscape in our country. Now, this is all you know. Actually, I'm take you to the extreme north. That white persons, they're all under snow. And if you see the slightly relief map of our country, I'll take you to beyond 10 to 13 or 14,000 feet altitude. And we have worked up to 15,000 feet altitude, where almost most of the year, about 6 to 7 months in a year, it's under snow. How this landscape is different from our landscape, even the peninsula India. One thing is, this is known as a cold desert. Why it is called cold desert? Because almost 6-7 years, it's under snow. 6-7 months in a year, it's snow. And secondly, in the winter, it becomes sub-zero. There are certain areas where it becomes minus 30 to 40 degrees Celsius, just to imagine. And in the summer, there the summer is equivalent to our rainy season. In the summer, the temperature becomes 4-5 degrees Celsius. And if you see, almost 14,000 feet altitude, it will be permanent snow all throughout the year. And that is the area, how it is different, the rugged terrain. The terrain is extremely rugged. There are hills. And it's a cold desert because there is no tree in that height. There are few plants. So, and extremely cold, it's known as cold desert. Thirdly, low oxygen. And if you just walk, just 20-30 yards, what will happen, if you walk very fast, you will have the breathing problem because oxygen is extremely low. Then reduced air pressure. Just giving a comparison, when the flight goes up, they maintain a air pressure which is about 6,400 feet altitude. And when you are going up to 15,000 feet altitude, just imagine what is the air pressure. And there is an ultraviolet radiation. If you walk there, your skin cracks and blood comes out, and there are the difficulties. Besides, if you keep up with these difficulties, you can really enjoy. It's one of the finest landscapes. Now, this area is almost 80 to 90% is the hills. It's a part of the Himalayas, Greater Himalayas. And there are certain hills which is quite high. And how the people are moving in the past, even today, through passes, the gaps between two hills. One is called Pensila, some of the major hills I am giving you. Khardungla, which is the highest mountain. Some of you, if you have seen Ladakh, must have traveled to Khardungla. And that goes to the Nubra Valley. And the Sasarla, that connects Ladakh with the Karakoram and Tibet. And Pensila, it connects the Dhanskar Valley. Like one is the Indus River, another is the Dhanskar River in that. And if you see the landscape, and see the completely hilly area, and Indus, Suru, Dhanskar, Soyak, and Nubra River. These are the major rivers, and all the dark area, this is a digital elevation model of that area, and all the dark areas are very high hills, more than 15,000, 16,000, 20,000 feet high. And what are the flora in that? Because the big trees hardly grows there. And trees grow only for 6 months in a year when there is a off season, only the summer. But if you look at the small plants and everything, there are more than 1,200 varieties of species are there. And most of that are medicinal plants. You must be knowing Tibet is known for Ayurvedic plants and all that, medicinal plants. And such plants are plenty in Ladakh. It's a part of that same landscape. And there are riverbeds, alluvial fans. What are the alluvial fans? When the glaciers melt, it brings the sediments down and becomes a hill, slightly small, raised land. That's called alluvial fans. And these passes are very rich in medicinal and edible plants. And people are surviving on those plants in the early days, say 8,000, 10,000 years back. And there are no big trees, you'll never find. And you'll find small bushes, only remains for 3 to 4 months during the summer season in that area and along the rivers. And the rivers are not approachable. It cuts through a huge suture like Indus. There is a huge gorges in that. And this is the upper Indus River. And there you will find, and Ladakh also supports one of the largest wetland in the country. Wetland means grasses grows. And these serves as a very good fodder for the animals over there. Because of that, mostly the local people depend on pastoralism. And we will see how the pastoral, domesticating of animals initiated in high altitude Ladakh. That also I will show you. And these are small. This is what we call the alluvial fans, raised land, and there are small streams in the summer. Small streams flows when the ice melts, particularly in the small glaciers are there, ice melt and the small streams erupts. Because of that, grasses also grows. And there is a beautiful valley called Nubra Valley. And that is the valley through that one has to travel to Siachen. You know about it, Siachen Glacier, where we have got the army establishment. This is called lay berry. This is one of the most nutritious berries and full of that valley. These are all bushes, thorny bushes, and plenty of these lay berry grows in that. And you might not have seen such a camel with 2 humps. They are all Bactrian. We had a contact with the Central Asia. So that was one of the communication things between Central Asia and the Ladakh. So, and since then we do not have any contact for last, say, couple of 100 years. But these camels are still surviving in Nubra Valley. In one of them, we have got something like 150, 200 camels, and these are all used for tourism purposes. And this is unique to that landscape. And if you see the animals are plenty. Even if it's a cold desert, there are 225 species, different animals. I'll show you the photograph. And there are a number of sanctuaries. We have got the Changtang Sanctuary, one of the very large, very close to the China border, in that altitude, and Karakoram, which is very close to China and Tibet. And this is that which you call Pashmina goat, from which these beautiful shawls are prepared, very costly shawls. They are Pashmina. And this is called yak, because the cattle cannot survive there. So these are the yak. Yak is originally all wild, but that is now domesticated by the local people. Because yak doesn't require any lot of care and all that, they can survive in that. And you have got the gazelle, groundhog, then a blue sheep, these are called ibex. These are all animals there. Plenty of animals. You can really, if you're traveling in Ladakh, you can come across these wild animals. And that Changtang area is a place where you can see the wild horses also. Now, army is breeding these, particularly wild horses, for the use in the border area. And who are the local people, transhumans? Because that's the area that many people cannot survive in the winter when the temperature drops down to 30 to 40 degrees Celsius. So there are communities like Gaddis, Gujjar, Bakrawal, because they are all pastoral nomads. They take sheep and goats to the high altitude, because that's, as I told you, Ladakh is a very good land for fodders. Lot of this wetland. Hundreds and thousands of animals can survive on these wetland. So they take it to that wetland during the summer there when the grasses grow, and they come back to the slightly low altitude in the winter. These are the abundant because they are not permanent there. They travel to the high altitude, come down to the low altitude. Why I am showing, this is what was happening even 10,000 years back. I will be showing those settlements also, those who are surviving for last 10,000 years. These are the latter. These people, Bakrawal, Gaddis, they come over here in the summer season, go back in the winter to the low altitude. These are the abundant camping settlements. This is how the remnants of the settlements you can see even today. And particularly if you talk about the history and archaeology of Ladakh, it's not taught in schools and colleges, even in the professional archaeological discipline. Why? Because for a pretty long time, we are so much biased listening to the Westerners, those who came over there, that this landscape is so rugged, tough terrain, human beings cannot survive. And probably this Ladakh area, high altitude, human beings started occupying since the time of Silk Route that we used to hear, which is hardly 1500 to 2000 years old. Why it happened? The first man was a Phayan, who was a Chinese traveler. He traveled to Ladakh in 5th century AD, and he was a Buddhist monk. And he said that besides the Buddhist remains, particularly the monasteries and other stupas, there is no other occupation, human occupation before that, before the Buddhism get into the valley. Subsequently, Alexander Cunningham, you must have heard, who came from UK and traveled a lot in the Indian subcontinent, and he has published 23 or 24 volumes. His diaries have been published. He also traveled Ladakh in 1946-47. He says, no, human occupation is not possible before the Silk Route, before the when the Buddhism traveled through that and went to Central Asia. Subsequently, again, one H. Franke, he's a Tibetalogist, manuscript and all that. He's a German scholar. He came to Ladakh. He also believed the same thing because they're all biased looking at the landscape. Someone has told that human habitation is not possible. They believed on that. Even many of the artifacts he collected, old artifacts, he said that this could be very recent, cannot be that old. Then Yale Cambridge, this was a very big expedition in 30s was going on from Cambridge University and Yale University. They had a joint project in India. So they are traveling in the different parts. They are all geologists and prehistorians, those who are working in the Stone Age. When they went, they are all biased about the Alpine glacier. Alpine hills has got a glacial history for last several lakhs years. And that history is not applicable in India. We had a completely different glacial history for last couple of lakhs years. But they are also so much biased that they got the stone artifacts, stone tool from Kargil. Kargil, you must be knowing what the war happened. From that area, that's about 10,000 feet altitude. They said that probably this is a very recent one. Someone must have brought it from Kashmir Valley and must have thrown it here. Even if they are picking up that artifact from that land, they are doubting their own discovery. The last man, Birbal Sahani, was a botanist and a geologist, after whom this Birbal Sahani Institute was created. This man was so visionary. Way back in 1936, he published a beautiful article in Current Science, where he writes, no, this landscape must have supported the human habitation going back in time, during the prehistoric times. That is what he wrote. But what happened, even after 36, Ladakh area was mostly occupied by the Buddhist monks and the historians. They said that no, we cannot believe, the history cannot go back in time to the prehistoric times. But I'll show you, there are few things you can see, these are routes. You must have heard about the silk routes. These are the small bridges, these are the routes still existing in Ladakh, in the tracks. And some 20 years back, army took an expedition following these particular paths and went to Tibet. And there is a beautiful tracking expedition over there. And this is a man who really brought a turning point in the history of this Ladakh. As you told you, the local historians. Then finally in 1985, GSI, Geological Survey of India, doing some exploration work, and they got couple of sites from where they picked up number of stone tools. After that, because by that time I also joined in the Archaeological Survey of India, and the story is very interesting. When I joined, I was quite young, and there was a letter from the Prime Minister's office that Ladakh has got some ancient remains that need to be explored. But my seniors, they are not going because that landscape was so tough. Many people have suffered also going there and all. So that was there in the cold storage in the file. So since I was young, I thought that it's a good opportunity. I'll get a chance to get into that landscape. So I went and started discovering the artifacts in 89. This is that. Then subsequently, number of sites we explored. Why I am showing, before going to the rock art proper, we should know who are the people created it, what they are exactly doing. Because we cannot isolate our artistic creativity from the human beings. So this is the Nubra River. Nubra River, it starts from Siachen, and that's called a Nubra River. After that, the valley is called also Nubra Valley. And that is the river, Nubra River, and this is on the hill in the middle of the river bed. And at the top of the hill, there is a small lake. And this lake has got the brackish water, salt water. Do you know why there is a salt water in this? And the river has got the sweet water. Because what is the creation, how the Himalaya got created? It's from the seabed. That is why in the Himalaya preserves the rocks that preserves the fossils of marine fossils particularly, it preserves. And there are many places you can get the salt bed, and there are many areas where you can get the brackish water, the salty water. And here, that water is sweet water because water flows. Here it is a stagnant and it becomes salt. All around this, there are large number of stone tools. People are occupying that. You can see, at least some of you can identify, these are the stone tools that were discovered on the hilltop. Now, how do you know that how old it is? Science has traveled a lot. Now, when the glacier moves, like a river flood, glacier also moves. When the glacier snow melts, it moves like a hill moves like that. I would say tremendous force. Even it breaks the stone, scratches the stone. It's a tremendous force. And these lines called striations, glacial striations, that snow even scratches the rock surface. And these surfaces can be dated, which is called a cosmogenic dating, and that has been dated, and the last glacier was 18,000. Since the artifacts are there on the hill, it cannot be older than the 18,000, because when the glacier moves, it takes away everything and gives a fresh landscape. So on that landscape, the artifacts are lying. That means All those stone tools that were lying are post 18,000. After that, in same 89, Wadia Institute of Himalayan Geology, they were also doing some survey. They got some small chula sort of thing, some bones, and they got it dated, which is about 6,000 to 7,000 years old. They said that these are all before the Harappans. Harappans has nothing to do with that area. Harappans never stayed in the high altitude area. They are all agriculturists staying in the low altitude. But anyway, they are all geologists. They termed as pre-Indus civilization. Following that, I started working because it was not their domain. They are all geologists, worked little bit and left that area. Then I started working. Then there is a site called Kiari. That's in Upper Indus. I started excavating. You can see there are the different ovens and hearths. We started getting bones, lot of bones. We did regular samples we collected to get a regular carbon-14 date and what are the materials we are getting. Everything we started collecting there. Because our job is to understand who are these people, how old they are, what was their economy. That needs to be understood. And they are all about 4,000 to 5,000 years old cultures as per the carbon-14 dating. And they were all doing the yak and sheep goat domestication. They are all domesticating these animals. At the same time, they are also hunting the wild animals. That was for their survival. Because they are not, agriculture was not done, cannot be done in that landscape. Then we started exploring the complete Ladakh, which I took nearly 35 years to work on that. Even that's not even 1% what I have done. The large number of sites we started locating. There are few sites I'll show you. This sort of thing, caves, and in that also there are settlements. And these settlements, sometimes on the roadside, road cutting, we have noticed 7 different occupiers, because they are all camping sites. These are all temporary sites. They are occupying only in the summer season. There are certain areas which are very, very congenial for human occupation. So they are settling there for 3-4 months along with their cattle, and once the winter sets in, they go to the lower altitude. Likewise, this is very close to Mulbek. This is a Buddhist site, and close to Kargil. And here also, we got such sites. This is about 8,000 years old site. These are all carbon-14 dated. And we got the chulas because there are blizzards. Blizzards means there's a cold wind, waves goes on. So they are staying very close to that huge rocks so that that acts as a shelter, and they stay. This is another when you go to the Dhanskar, to the southern part of the Ladakh, you will have to cross a glacier. This glacier is at a height of 11,000 to 12,000 feet altitude. And there also, 13,000, and there also we got a site, human occupation. Just imagine, and this site is 8,000, 9,000 years old. Even during that time, they are crossing these hills. Human occupations were there 8,000 to 9,000 years back. It was not known earlier in that landscape. And they are crossing these glaciers and hills along with the cattle. This is a Khardungla. This is the highest motorable road going to Nubra. There also, there are two different. When you come from Leh, this is called South Pulu, North Pulu. Pulu is the Sarai, where Silk Route people used to move. They stay overnight because In one day, they cannot cross the Khardungla. And this route was also crossed because we got a site at North Pulu, and this is about 5,000 years old. Forget about your Silk Route, which is about 1,500, 2,000 years old. They are all crossing these hills 5,000 years back. And how we know about the climate? Because there are small lakes. And Birbal Sahani Institute is working on the paleoclimate. How we determine the climate, do you know? We dig a pit here, collect the sediment samples. Sediment preserves mineral magnetism for the dates, sedimentological analysis, even the pollens. Pollens can be preserved for thousands of years. Diatoms. Diatoms are microorganisms. They are very sensitive to the different climate and the dating methods. So that gives us a clue what is the climate, whether it was a very cold climate, whether it was a hot climate. These are, because there are no rains there. It never rains. That's why it's called a desert. Then, now we have reconstructed the paleoclimate of that year, of that region, Ladakh. Nearly 5,000 years back to 2000, that is a cold climate. Then 2,500 to 1,500, that was a moderate to cold climate. Then 1,500 to 900 BP, those are warm and hot climate, which is which you say Silk Route time, and 9,000, that is a cold arid. But interestingly, when we say it's a cold, it's a minus temperature. In that temperature also there are settlements, people are staying, and we'll see how they are staying also. Now I'll take you to northernmost Siachen area. And this is a Sasoma, DBO. How many of you heard about the DBO? Because it was there 2-3 years back, Daulatbag Oldie. That is the last point. You cross there, then you reach in China, Tibet and all that. That's the last part of Karakoram. So we were, because whenever I was getting all these sites, this has nothing to do with the Kashmir Valley or rest of the peninsular India. So my point was, from where these people are coming? So I wanted to understand what is happening in the extreme bordering area of Tibet and China. So I started working in this area, and this road goes to Siachen. Then the hills that you are seeing, that's in the Karakoram, the other side. And here we started working. And we got a lot of these old settlements. And these are all 9,000 years old. 9,000 BC means 11,000 years old. This is the earliest date of particularly pastoral nomads. They are already knowing how to domesticate animals and staying there. And we started excavating, and we know that how difficult it was. That was August. August means there is snowfall and we are working there, both. Because in August, snowfall starts, and by September, the area gets closed. And this is how the archaeologists, they work. There are different layers. We get the different dates, different material and all that. What material we got? These are all the material we have got. For the first time, we started getting bone tools. 11,000 years back, they are killing animals, big animals, and those bones were converted to the different. And one of the earliest evidence in our country about the needle, you must be knowing about needle for weaving cloths. This is the earliest evidence going back to 9,000 years. And there are two types of needles. One needle is without an eye. and another needle with eye. Without needle, all these woolen clothes, they do not have the eye in that. So that sort of needle we got in that context. This is the earliest evidence in our country now. So we have got the bone tools in that area. Then we have got, of course, the stone tools there. And there are small Michaelis blades, 1 centimeter, 2 centimeters. And this gives us a clue. This is type of industry, and those who are using all that, they were also settling in Tibet area. So since this site is very close to Tibet and Karakoram, we got a clue that this is the same landscape. What we see here, also similar type of people were already there in Tibet area. And now in Tibet, there are a lot of works have been done that goes back in time even earlier than us. Now, coming down, this is the type of culture that was there in the high altitude. Now, what is their type of, which you call a rock art? There is no paintings there, which we have seen some of the paintings over here. And we talk about the petroglyphs, engraving. So that is what is happening. This is a map which you have also put there. And very less is known in the northern India, particularly Ladakh, where we have got only the petroglyphs. But if you see the petroglyphs, that is the richest in the country. And if you see, it's not that we discovered the petroglyphs in Ladakh. It was discovered first in 1880. Subsequently, a lot of these things we are knowing. But finally, in 1985, Archaeological Survey Fund had a major project on this. So they documented literally hundreds of these. And subsequently, there was a French project. They also started working. Now, if you see, as on today, there are 150 sites have been discovered, more than 150. And if you see the number of petroglyphs are the stones, there are more than 20,000. See, no part of our country has got so many petroglyphs as in today. And these are occurring from a single stone to a large, huge hills. And I'll be telling you. And the largest of these is the Murgi Topko. That was the site which has got a couple of hundreds of these things. Now this is a distribution map. You can see the map which I showed you earlier. This is the Leh, this is the Nubra Valley, this is the Zanskar. These are the major river valleys. And very close to the river valleys, there are boulders that have been depicted. And if you see what are the different subject matter that has been depicted, is the geomorphic figures. Maximum is the animal figures are there. Then anthropomorphic figures. Then some of the architectural figures that are very late. Architecture means like stupa and all that. Then non-figure, there are a lot of symbols. And most of these symbols are connected with the Buddhism. Those are also latter period. But there is one controversy. None of these rock paintings have been dated yet. That is why many of the scholars are there interpreting in the different ways. Some says it belongs to the prehistoric time, Stone Age culture. Some says Bronze Age, Copper Age, Iron Age and all that. But there is no Copper Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age in Ladakh. Because that is one of the understanding which we are lacking. Whatever we see in the peninsular India, the rest of the world, rest of the India, we extrapolate that and apply in the high altitude. High altitude area is a complete different landscape that has nothing to do with the rest of the country. And now there are some initiative has begun to date all these, because there are different methods, like one can go for the OSL, one can go for the cosmogenic dating. But many of the scholars, those who have worked on these paintings, petroglyphs, they are all artists. That is why There are certain things they are unable to understand that I'll be showing you how that has been misinterpreted. Now, you know about the petroglyphs, some of the definitions have been given. And these are just scratching the surface in a different way. No paintings, nothing is applied on that, but sketching, taking out the portion of the rock so that you get the design. And in whatever I'm showing the petroglyphs, these are in context of Ladakh only. They do it with the battering, means they will pick up one stone, batter it against another stone, so there are marks. There's sometimes how these things are beautifully designed. It's not that only paintings petroglyphs you see and interpret. How they have done it, density of battering, size of the battering, depth of the battering, that needs to be understood. Even the shape of the hammer, whether when you hammering it against another stone, whether the tip of that stone is a point or a stroke like, thickness of that, everything counts. I'll show you how they are modifying the different designs. See, there is one here called dot battering, and this is a dot. When they are batter it, the hammer touches at one point. Here, there is a small line, length. So the hammer has got a couple of millimeters long where it hammers. So the design also changes. And this is what you can see even the big size hammers, small size dots, even the outline, high density, low density. So they can really, while hammering it with different sizes of hammers, they can beautifully design it. And how close the dots will be, how sprayed it will be, what should be the background, everything was decided by the artist. For example, here, so much battering has been done. You can see the complete skin is removed. All that. And they're knowingly, they're doing it on a stone which has already been weathered at the back. So that becomes a contrast. They're not doing it on the fresh rock. And this is another design. How they are doing the battering, the bigger size hammer which touches and all. And even the depth of the battering and patination. I'll tell you what is a patination. Patina is when you go to the sun, move in the on the road for a quite long time, your skin becomes dark. That's the best way to compare the patina. Even the same thing happens with the rock. When you break a rock, it becomes very fresh. And when the rock lies on the surface for thousands of years, the color changes. That's what happens. So this thing was very well understood by those people, those who have prepared the petroglyphs. So that is what, in the designing part and other things, they were knowing about it. But when we do a recording of this, try to understand this, we'll have to see whether they were already patinated stones were collected or selected for the petroglyphs, or subsequently it has become patinated. Because if there is a direction of the wind, wind directly hampers the rock, then patina will be less. And nature of the rock composition, and you can see how they have done it. The patinated rock they selected and beautifully designed with a closed hammering, and that comes out. So this artistic creativity. And another, here you can see, both are patinated. But this is a recent one, and this is an older one. Because once you do it, the rock becomes fresh like this, and once it travels for thousands of hundreds of years, then becomes again patinated. But that patina will be different from the original patina. So that is how you can date it, or some sort of a relative date among the petroglyphs. This is how I have explained. For example, patina is a weathering process, first level. And if this is the thickness of the, we call it a weathering rind, thickness of the weathering, and if the hammering removes the rock beyond that level, then that becomes completely white on the rock surface. If it is within that, it becomes lighter patina. So that is what one has to see. If someone is not understanding the thickness of the patina, even if they belong to the same age, one will be very fresh, one will be slightly older. One has to see what is the depth of these petroglyphs points in relation to the thickness of the patina. Now I'll take you to some of the sites and you will see. Sasoma, this is again in the Nubra Valley, and it's a very rich site. And this is the army establishment where we stayed, and these are the localities where there are petroglyphs. And you can see there are ibexes full of this on the boulder. And there are some human anthropomorphic figures. This sort of anthropomorphic figures. This is on Indian side. I will show you afterwards the parallels in the Central Asia. And this I have already shown. This is from the same Sasoma. These are called masks. And this is also depicted. And I'll show afterwards, such type of mask is found in China, Tibet and Central Asia. So that must have traveled from that side, the connection from that. And here also same, many of the paintings from the Sasoma, petroglyphs. Here also there. And there is a site called Aranu. You can see these are the boulders that contains the petroglyphs. And from Aranu, we got one stone which is full of petroglyphs. And the bottom portion is a pointed one. Probably it was erected. It had some belief system attached to it. Otherwise, no other stone has so much depictions. I'll show you that. Because we have got a full article published earlier. You can see there are a number of, and that there are 27 different petroglyphs depicted on this rock. And this is a pointed one, and it was probably erected at that point. Probably some sort of a belief must have been uttered, we do not know. And there is a site called Kimi, and all those dots are the boulders which have got the petroglyphs. And you can see these petroglyphs and beautifully ornamented ibex. And these are all done with that hammering technique. And you can see that. Then I was talking about the Murgi. Murgi Topko, you can see, this is what you call a moraine. When the glacier moves, it takes the complete load from the surface, huge rocks. The small dots that you are seeing, each of these rocks, many of the rocks, do you know how big it is? Sometimes this big size, room size rock, single rock, or bigger than this. I'll be showing you. This is what you call the end moraine. When the glacier moves, it takes away, carves out everything from the hill and deposits at one point. These are the rocks, much bigger than the jeep and all that. There are many huge rocks. This is the last point. And if you go to the behind it, these moraines, the huge rocks. And all these rocks have got the depictions, petroglyphs. And this is the largest site. And this has got 1450 petroglyphs on 300 boulders. This is the largest petroglyph site, not only Ladakh, in whole of the country. And probably there's a plan to preserve this particular site. It's not yet protected. And if I take you to that landscape, there are different routes. If you go towards, because this is Sasova DBO, and you go towards the east or southeast, you reach Tibet. Go straight Xinjiang area, particularly China, Central Asia. Go to this side, Gilgit-Baltistan. And these are all rich in petroglyphs. And we are here. And these are some of the routes, early routes, through the passes people are going. They are all, say, 1500 years back, 200 silk routes. But this movement was going on even much before that. So that's why we have got that contact. I'll show you. This is the Tibet, and on the western side of the Tibet, bordering our Indian territory, there are large number of petroglyph sites. This is the Nubra Valley. The Sasoma, you go to the top, you reach Siachen Glacier, and this is what the year. And these are the pockets where this is a Murgi, these are the pockets where large number of petroglyph sites are there. And if you see, these rivers cannot be crossed all the time. There are certain points where one can cross it easily. And for crossing, these are the narrow points are there, they cross it. And habitations are there on both the sides. You can see the petroglyph sites on this bank and that bank. That means they are settling here, crossing this river at this point. And this is some sort of anthropomorphic figure from China, Central Asia. And if you see, this is from Karakoram area, that one, anthropomorphic. And this is from Sasoma, which I showed you. This is from Indian side. This is called anthropomorphs, particularly a very symbolic representation of anthropomorphic figure. This from Ladakh, top one is from Tibet, and bottom one is from lower Ladakh. And these are from China. And these are from China and other places. And these are called masks, which I showed you earlier, face mask. And these are all from Central Asia. And this is from Ladakh, Nubra and all that, you can see. That means whatever we are getting in the Central Asia, China or Tibet, and we have got a continuity in Ladakh. This I showed you. This also we get the bordering area. And depiction of eagle. Eagle is a very sacred in bone literature in Tibet. So we do get from Nubra Valley, this eagle, and even from Upper Tibet we get. This is in that mentioned in the bone literature. That's a Tantric Buddhism literature. Then there's a solar symbol. Upper Tibet has got the solar symbol. This is from Upper Tibet. That is from Ladakh, Central Ladakh. That means all the bordering area have got shows some sort of a cultural contact between the Central Asia and Tibet. And if you see how these people, one thing is we have got the Stone Age sites, we have got these petroglyphs. We know they can be connected. There are certain petroglyphs which are of historical times, but otherwise many of the old petroglyphs must have been connected with these Stone Age sites which are pretty early. Now how these people are staying, that was another problem. So we started looking to understand how they are adapting themselves to that environment. Because one is, so far the food is concerned, wild animals are there for hunting, plant foods are plentifully available, and they can do the domestication of animals. Now, best thing is, I'll tell you a story. When we are working in 15,000 feet altitude, That was the time when army people came to us, one of the colonel, he came to visit us. The moment he reached, he told his troops that this is one of the finest places for camping. And that was the place where we were excavating. Then from my side, I asked a question to the colonel that why you feel that this is the right place for the camping. So there are few things which he said, that there is a seasonal glacial stream because they cannot get into the gorges to fetch water. Water was available. Then there's a pasture land, stabilized landscape. There are certain landscape, those are very stabilized, rocks never fall from the top. The dynamic landscape gets the rocks, which you call erratics. So presence of erratics means the stones are there. These are called erratics. So these are called erratics. So these are already fallen long back. You can see the degree of patina on that. That means that landscape has been stabilized. So these are, and wind direction, because these are all hills. Blizzards, when it flows, particularly the cold wind, that passes through these passes. So you should be in such a place that directly cold wind won't touch your camp. So such places, whatever he described, I noted that, and I found that similar is the situation where I am getting the archaeological sites, as well as these are called abundant site. This is the archaeological site. These are the abundant sites 100, 150 years back. People, those are doing the domestication. They have abundant because some of the things have been, particularly the water flows comes from the top. That has been dried out, particularly that stream. So they have abandoned it. Then I started to look into those, because these are the settlements by the shepherds. They come from the different low altitude, settle here because of the fodder. And they come with 500, 600 animals. And if you see, these are the camping sites, and these are for the animals, and where they were staying, human beings. See, they used to dig a pit and get into that. So animals will be here. Even in winter, they can stay inside the pit. The huge pit they dig, and they stay inside that. And this is the photo inside the pit. So this is what is happening even in the past, even 8,000 to 9,000 years back. So human beings were already there in the valley, occupying the Ladakh high altitude much before the Silk Route was there. This is the abundant settlements. They have got their camping sites. Now we have started, there are a number of shelters are there, caves are there. Now we have started exploring the caves. It's a very tough terrain. And if you can go to one cave, that's sufficient in a day, because it's very difficult to climb the hills there because of the oxygen problem. Now there are many other problems we need to resolve. Actually, how the movement was taking place inside Ladakh, those things we have not yet understood. In winter, where they are going, all these small problems that we have identified, we are still looking at it. And another thing I'll tell you, now the latest research that's going on, the area that I excavated, which is 11,000 years old, we have got some yak bones, and we are doing the DNA. DNA will tell us, particularly, whether this yak was domesticated or not. And we have now got the indications that yak was domesticated 11,000 years back. Because when I was studying, we used to read that the early domestication goes back to Afghanistan, Mehergarh, and all those places. And that is about 6,000 to 7,000 years old. Now we'll be able to push back the history of domestication to 11,000. Because that is a compulsory. Even today, these communities, those who keep on moving, they survive because they survive on animal food. Even the paneer and whatever they prepare, nothing gets destroyed. Because throughout the day, the temperature is minus temperature. It can remain like keeping it in the fridge. And so far the fuel is concerned, yak is one of the animals that eat very less. The dung is so much that dung serves as a fuel. The yak skin, they prepare the tents and all that. So yak is like a lifeline for them, whether it's a fuel, edibles, everything, and the plant foods. So people who are already there in Ladakh, say 18,000 years back, minimum, as on today, which is a confirmed one. That means much before the trade route started between the Central Asia and Indian subcontinent. And these are the people who showed the path, how to cross and how to, because any business people, Buddhist people, those who are traveling through that high altitude, they cannot travel. They are not knowing what are the different passes. So they are taking the help of these local groups and crossing and going up to the central India. So this is all. Thank you. Any questions or anything? Yes.
First of all, very appreciated because you have done, I'm from Madhya Pradesh, so we are surrounded with, we are very protected itself, but you done such a great job.
Thank you.
So, okay. So my question is, in your 35 years of experience, have you ever felt like landsliding or anything? Have you experienced anything?
Once I got trapped in the snowfall. So, I was traveling from Kargil to Srinagar, traveling, and after half an hour, the heavy snowfall, all the buses, that was the time, I'm talking about 30 years back. Now the roads are very good. That was the time we had to travel by, there are no flights, we had to travel by buses from Srinagar. We got trapped at a place called Dras, if you know DRAS. And that is the coldest place in Ladakh. And now at present must be minus 30. Then there was only one hotel, all the tourists there also got trapped. We will have to travel to the interior within the snow, got into one of the villages, small huts. What they do, in the ground floor, they keep the cattle. On the first floor, they stay. They are all mud houses. So we got trapped for 3 to 4 days in that. I mean, there are many difficulties. You cannot come out. It was so minus degree temperature. But, drinking water was a problem and all other things. And that was the one thing. Then I got used to the environment and nothing happens. But one very interesting thing, since I was in government, I used to tell the people, you cannot afford to go to Sweden, Switzerland, and all those places. So best thing you can go to Ladakh, and that too in the government money, because that's very costly if you want to travel in that area. So they go, and after 10, 15 days, 1 or 2 of the team members, they've got high altitude sickness. High altitude sickness is very dangerous type, and you forget and everything. Then there is only one hospital that time with the army, and that the temperature of the chamber is controlled. They put you there, and the temperature, they reduces to the low level, particularly our temperature, and at the same time air pressure, everything slowly changes, again they take it up. And that was the only, now there are many hospitals and all that. So that was what is happening. And blood also comes out from the nose. Those are the problems. So many of the whosoever was accompanying me as a part of the team, the next season they don't go. Then I used to convince some more people from my different sector divisions of the department, archaeological survey. I used to convince them, then they accompany me. That problem comes. But I love that landscape. The last time I visited was just before Corona. I'm planning to go next year again. At least 10-15 days you can really enjoy. Now there is a lot of change. Because when I was traveling earlier, there is no milk available except yak milk and yak butter. That taste is different. Now everything is available in the last 35 years. But bite ke.
Do you have any similarities of the petroglyphs that you found on Konkan region and the high altitude Ladakh, either in figurative form or technique?
Technique here, it's completely different because minutely I have studied. Everything I have studied, what are the different techniques and all that. Probably here it's slightly different, and mostly the domesticated animals, humped bulls and all that, all those things are there. Because there, wild animal, ibex was very common and all that. They are doing the hunting, and some of the domesticated animals are very less depicted. And that's the only difference. But again, when I say like color matching, patina, and it has to be contrast, designing, since I have all that, probably such things has not been done in South, particularly Karnataka and all that. Sangan Kalwan. That can be done in the different ways. We did. Technique.
Technological place you have
Yes.
to grow in this artifacts. I want to know.
Yeah, particularly the stone tools. Stones can be dated by aluminum 10 and beryllium 26 isotope, which you call a cosmogenic dating. This aluminum 10 and beryllium 26 isotope has got a half-life. Anything has got, like a carbon 14 has got a half-life, we date it. So this is done only in one lab in our country. That's in IUAC, Inter-University Accelerator Center in Delhi. So any of the stone tools that has been prepared, say 1 lakh, 5 lakhs, 10 lakh years back, and buried, because this absorbs aluminum 10 and beryllium 26 isotope from the atmosphere. Once it is buried, that gets stopped. The half-life starts the way carbon 14 happens. So the same thing is dated. That is one method. And the other method is OSL. OSL in the sense, if some of these petroglyphs are already buried in the sediments, at least the contemporary sediments, when you remove it, the contemporary sediments can be dated by OSL, or the older thing was the thermoluminescent TL. So that can be dated, and it will say at least these petroglyphs are older than these sediments. These are.
Hello, sir. So my query is a bit, how do I say, a bit complex when you say. Now, if you were to connect the petroglyphs, and then when we're talking about, when we're depicting continuity here, by that I mean, when you mentioned one somewhere in one of the slides, PON, one region, yes sir, and then you showed an image of
Eagle.
Eagle, yeah.
Yes.
Which is also called human, because I'm from the region,
Ah.
so my work is in one and working on it. So would it be mere conjecture if we were to say that many of the petroglyphs can be related to one, because let's say if
Particularly the bordering area of that, I'm talking about the Nubra Valley. Because these things we get in the Nubra Valley, not in the Zanskar or Indus. So They are already in touch. Mena, you can easily cross. You cross the Sasarla. There is a Sasar. And the moment you cross it, you get into the DBO area, Daulatbag old area. Then you can easily go to Tibet.
Another question, sir. You said that French and other working on it, but
We are working.
no permission. That's what you wrote. No, with no prior permission from the government of India.
Because that was illegally done. Because many of the scholars, they come as a tourist. I'm a tourist. But the provision says, if you want to do a research, you'll have to go for a research visa. I cannot go to US or UK as a tourist and do a research. You know that.
So, what is stopping us, sir? I mean, there's one individual, a French individual, goes by the name Quentin Devers.
I know.
Yeah, so of course. So, what's stopping us, the government of India, and to map out the entire petroglyphs? Because this particular person has been here for the last, what, a decade now? And he has created...
Not decade. Well, 20 years or so.
Quentin, sir?
Huh?
Quentin, maybe, yeah. Because I met him in the last 5 years. So, what is stopping us to make a larger database? Because we are completely dependent on the
Now,
world's
there are some, if you know, Cholden Ghasa, Cholden, there is a guy who is working in one of the civil departments in the government of India. There, he is a local guy. He has already started documenting it. And there is another person, again, from the Leh Valley, who has prepared a complete document. They are doing, local people are there, those are interested in petroglyphs, because they are easy to understand by the common people. They have done a much better work. Only thing, since they are not a professional, they are unable to publish that. Someone should help them. But their documentation, every small areas, wherever the petroglyphs are there, they are beautiful documented. I know those people. Because ASI called them for one of the presentations. They are people. 2-3 guys are there in Leh. Are you from Leh? Ladakh?
From Kargil.
Kargil.
Thank you.
Tourists and adventurers and all that. But knowledge on these petroglyphs and the connection of the sites to the historic life, everything is not known to anyone.
It's
So
true.
I think the tourism has to take it up and make it more popular.
Yes.
So that we also get to understand. I went to Libreville and all, I never heard even one person talk about these things.
You could,
So much is there actually.
and you could have really gone to that approachable, the Murgi site. And there is another Tirisa. There is one village when you go to the hot spring area. And on your way, there is a village called Tirisa. And that has got the earliest stupa remains. And we have dated it, that's about 6th, 7th century AD. And Tishur stupa at Leh is a very pretty latter stupa. And Tirisa, and these are local people, they know it. And that's the point with the, there are a lot of things going on in tourism sector, but somehow that has been diverted, they are not included. All these archaeological sites, they are beautiful sites are there. And you will really enjoy. Murgi, you can really enjoy that area. Tirisa, you will love to see that. And Diskit area, you must have gone to those double-humped camel and all that. And the sand dunes, you must have seen. Before that, in Diskit area, there are only burials are there. And most presumably, those are around 2000 years old. And maximum burials, graves, have been robbed. And similar graves are there across the other side of the country, border, and there, full of particularly Sunga Kusar period, this is so rich in gold and other things. These are all robbed on this side. Still there are many which needs some further probe, excavation. That's, I fully agree, this need to be a part of the tourism networking.
It has to be the story of Ladakh.
Yeah. It is not Nubra Valley. There are many places. One can really see that. Need to be included.
ASA also has to do something.
And ASI is not active again. That becomes like a punishment posting. You know, anyone has to be posted is there. So it should happen. Whosoever is interested should be posted there, so that they can work. Because working day is only 6 months in a year.
You will take somewhere and posted at Nagar, not as punishment.
Punishment. Yeah.
Temperature. There is an actual progression of temperatures, like something like whatever 2000 BC or whatever. It's from a cold and dry cycle, it's coming to a more warm climate.
Warm climate.
But again, I found that somewhere towards the end, the cycle got repeated.
Here, no? This one. This is January, February. If you see,
No, you are given about four examples in a chronological order of the variation in the temperature with respect to the time. I find the cycle varies.
paleoclimate you are
Yeah,
talking
what I
about.
found is
Oh,
yeah.
I'll just take out just one.
It's a text matter. There's no picture. It's no picture. It's just a
Nice.
Yes.
This one. Whatever they have done it, they have not gone beyond 5,000.
Probably what struck in my mind was in the description, phase 1, it's cold and arid.
Cold and arid, that
Cold
is
arid,
between
it looks like
5,000 to
my
2,500.
question is from cold and arid to moderately cold, and then it becomes warm and wet. As
Then again cold.
and again, how it has gone back to cold and arid.
How that's on the basis of only at a diatom study, pollen studies, and all, and particular the mineral composition of the sediments that BSIP has done. And there are a lot of papers, not one. The 1 dozen papers have been published in April.
I'm asking very generic, of course, my question is very generic.
Because pollen,
Reason behind why it is again cold and arid has come.
why it has come? Because I told you, we cannot compare with the alpine glacier. Here what has happened, even in the small valley has got a different glacial history. Glacial history, glaciation, glacial, interglacial. There is stadial, interstadial. The small glacial, interglacials are there, small peaks. These are the smaller peaks within, and this is not valid for whole of Ladakh, no. Ladakh is such a complex area. This will be valid. They have done it only in that middle Indus river areas. So this is valid for that area. If you go to the Nubra will be having a different story. Because there the glacial record is there, severe the movement of moraines and all that, 18,000 last glacial maxima, which you say. So every pockets, because there was a time 4 glacial schemes were there in Alpine. We are also taught in that. Gunjmindalri, Surma and all that. So those things are gone. Now there are major something like 15 or 16 glaciations in Himalayas, and each of the smaller areas have got a different story, because we cannot generalize the whole of that. So what they are doing now, smaller valleys, they are taking up and preparing a complete local history, climatic history of that. That is what BSIP has got a large project, they are doing it. Because we cannot generalize one valley to the other.
But in general, world over, whether you look at the glaciers or Himalayas, there's only melting, one bit very sad state of affairs.
Even today, no? Today because of the temperature rise. Huh. But again, those who are doing the glacial history, a friend of mine who does the work, now he's retired, he says there are certain pockets within the Himalayas. Most of the areas are melting, but there are certain pockets where there is no decrease in the, particularly in the cusp area, what are the glacial is trapped. It's not melting. So it's a very differential environment, but overall, many of the things are melting now.
Thanks a lot, sir. And now, after the talk? After the talk is okay? Yeah. So now we'll felicitate our. She has the last question. Yes, please, please. Yeah.
Preserving them. Is it same in the rock shelters and open air petroglyphs?
Here, 100% is open air. Because here the rock shelters, whatever, not rock shelter, we call it a caves. These caves are in sediments. There are sediments, older sediments, fine sediments, which have been cemented, and there are caves. But all the petroglyphs, 100% petroglyphs, are open air. On the rock boulders, they are there.
So what were the difficulties you faced in preserving?
So, till date, government is not preserving. These are all preserved by nature. And I am telling you, nature is preserves much better than us. We destroy. Nature preserves.
Quite difficult, even for the nature to preserve them. Being in a high altitude environment, it's even difficult for the nature to preserve them for a
Nature preserves. Because there is no rainfall there. Okay? Only the ultraviolet and wind. Because of that, there is no erosion. This pattiness and weathering. If weathering, here what happens, that black color which I showed you, that happens in, people are working, many geologists are already doing research, how much time it takes to become black, patinated, color changes. Because since there is no rainfall, nothing, this change in color is very fast and it preserves. But that never happens here because it happens because of the rain and all the things, smaller particles are washed out. Do you know in Ladakh or when you go to the Himalayas, you throw a paper, you come back after 10 years, pick up that paper. It preserves.
Thank you so much and for the wonderful questions, and thank you so much, sir, for the presentation. And I call now our chairperson, sir, CEO, sir, and Abdul Rahman, sir, from the FDDI side to come for a small felicitation.
afternoon, everybody. Uh, at the outset, I sincerely apologize for joining late the wonderful lecture. I missed the first part of it. And I know, sir, quite a long time, but not straight away. I have been reading, referring his articles. Because whenever we want to make an attempt on writing rock art, definitely we have to read and refer V.S. Vakankarji and again S.B. Otaji. And here our B.M. Reddy sir is there, S.B. Vakankar ka straight away student hai. Then on the other hand, sir, with his smiling, ever smiling face, always is open for the youngsters, unlike many other people who are fragilized themselves, branding as we are only the scholars. No, when we should be encouraging the younger generation, then only 45 years of his personal experience. He is not actually keeping for himself. He is sharing by giving lectures, by writing these things. Yes, sir. Yes. Sir has also started an organization and now it won not only national but also international reputance, and sir has been invited by many NGOs to take lead in some of the projects to be areas excavated and again conservation and preservation. He is also master on that. Yes, I would like to bring to the notice of the younger generation here that there was a wonderful pride and proud moment when the Bhimbetka was inscribed on the World Heritage List. Sir is responsible. Give him a big hand. Not only that, he was actually like a caveman, stayed many a days in Bhimbetka's caves. Some people called him as Bhimaya Volke. Then conservation. Just excavation is one thing, or documenting is at the earlier stage, but sir has devoted himself just to not only documentation but also preserving the Bhimbetka rock art. It is again a wonderful thing that sir has done it. Then when in the recent past, Konkan Petroglyphs really got what you call worldwide recognition and waiting for inscription. So this is in this context, we also have similar petroglyphs on huge number in Leh, Ladakh and Himalayan regions, and we are fortunate to have sir for delivering a wonderful talk with his very what you call musical mellifluous words. Sir, we are honored to listen to your wonderful talk, supported and complemented by beautiful pictures. This is not like collecting from somewhere else. He himself has actually took all the photographs and presented to us. Sir, first and foremost, it is our privilege on behalf of Pleach India Foundation to place on record our sincerest thanks for accepting our request and coming over here from such a long distance and delivering the most important, illuminating, enlightening talk for the benefit of all of us. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. And, second thing, and in sequence, I am proposing vote of thanks is that we shall not be failing in our duty without expressing our sincerest gratitude to the director or executive director and the staff and students of FDDI is Footwear Design and Development Institute, whose heart is so wide. Oh, please come and use our wonderful space. Thank you for that. Thank you, FDDI. Next, it is not the least, but I, on behalf of Pleach India Foundation, would like again to thank Madam Dr. Tejaswini Erlagadda, Chairperson Pleach India Foundation, when my dear proud friend, where is he? Sanatana, just what I call proposed this thing, ma'am has immediately accepted because sir was kind enough to deliver Pleach Talk online. Now it is offline. So many people have a great chance to meet him, interact, interface like that. Na? So for that, ma'am is kind enough to do this particular wonderful event. And in series, we will also have many more such talks here. And this is, would you like to notice, 73rd Pleach Talk. We are nearing platinum. Then I also thank my dear friend Mr. Sanatana and his team. He is not one, he is many. Multi, what you call a sign bolte na sainya. He is a single-man army, but supported by all our wonderful people from Pleach India Foundation. Then, again, the ever-smiling, crescentic smiling people, your students and faculty members. And for each and everyone who have assembled here and consumed the beatitude of the wonderful lecture of S.B. Ota, I thank once again. Particularly, I would like to acknowledge the presence of our senior scholars, Professor B.M. Reddy ji, then our Mr. Ramesh Swarapaneni. They are dedicated for preservation of heritage and others also. I am sorry, I really don't know their names, and faculty also. Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Thank you once again.
We have tea and snacks outside. Kindly partake that. And we are showcasing some of the selected rock arts from across India. Please have a look as well. Thank you.
वो निकाल दो वो केबल लगाना देता है एक्स्ट्रा नहीं
तुम्हारे को वाला सब अच्छा ही रहता कांडा बराटा
एक ही पुराना फोटो है आईजीसी वाला वो आता है